The massive display screen on the Alliance flagship Starseeker showed a nightmare. Thousands of red markers representing Domain Empire battleships encircling the Centauri system. The Alliance's final major base. Admiral Raya, a towering blue-skinned being with 4 arms, stared silently as enemy vessels continued appearing every few minutes. "Commander, we've lost all communication with our outer defense stations," his second-in-command announced. "The Domain fleet is forming up for attack." Raya's lower pair of hands clenched the armrests tightly. 3 brutal years of constant warfare had brought the Alliance to the edge of collapse. Their armaments proved worthless against the Domain's advanced protective barriers, and their fortifications crumbled beneath the Empire's devastating energy cannons. "How many civilian transports have escaped through the evacuation route?" Raya asked, his tone heavy with worry. "Less than half, Admiral. The Domain is advancing quickly. At their present velocity, they'll reach firing distance of the planet within 6 hours." Raya understood this could be the Alliance's final battle. Their surviving fleet of 800 vessels faced impossible odds against the Domain's force of more than 5,000 warships. The calculations were brutal. They had no chance. "Transmit the emergency call again," Raya commanded. "Use every frequency, including the ancient ones. Maybe this time someone will respond." The distress signal shot across the void, broadcasting the Alliance's desperate appeal for assistance. Unknown to Raya, at the far edge of human territory, that transmission would alter everything. Admiral James Stone gazed at the holographic display of the distress call from Earth's Orbital Command Observation Platform. After 200 years of seclusion, humanity had constructed the most sophisticated fleet in charted space. Their vessels carried armaments and defensive systems that would appear miraculous to other civilizations. "The Council has reached their conclusion, sir," his aide said, approaching with a data device. Stone turned, his lined face showing both worry and resolve. "And they've authorized the intervention. The complete Third Fleet is under your authority, all 2,500 ships." Stone gave a slow nod. Humanity had observed from concealment as the Domain Empire grew, overwhelming one civilization after another. They had readied themselves for this moment, developing weaponry designed specifically to neutralize Domain capabilities. "Send activation signals to every shipyard," Stone ordered. "I want all vessels prepared for jump within 3 hours. Time to demonstrate to the galaxy that attacking peaceful civilizations carries consequences." Back in the Centauri system, the Domain Fleet's Supreme Commander mocked the Alliance's frantic broadcasts. His enormous flagship, roughly the size of a small moon, spearheaded the assault formation. "Watch them plead," he told his bridge personnel. "Broadcast the demand for total capitulation. When they decline, we'll showcase our new planet-destroying weapon on their home world." A junior operator, suddenly tensed at his monitoring console. "Supreme Commander, we're picking up strange energy signatures at the system's perimeter." The commander waved dismissively. "Likely some breakdown from their deteriorating equipment. Nothing can halt us now. Our triumph is certain." His declaration cut short as space itself appeared to rip apart. Through numerous massive portals came vessels unlike anything the Domain had witnessed. Their streamlined dark frames seemed to swallow light, and their dimensions dwarfed even the Domain's largest ships. Unknown fleet. "Identify yourselves," the Domain commander demanded, uncertainty creeping into his voice for the first time in years. An immediate response came, transmitted on every frequency in flawless Domain language. "This is Admiral James Stone of the United Earth Federation. You are commanded to halt your assault on the Alliance and retreat from this system at once. This is your sole warning." The Domain commander stared at his tactical screen in shock. The human vessels had positioned themselves perfectly to block his fleet's escape routes, but surely these newcomers couldn't possibly challenge the mighty Domain Empire. He was moments away from discovering how mistaken he was. The Domain commander's laughter resonated through his bridge. "One warning. You presume to threaten the Domain Empire." He addressed his weapons officer. "Demonstrate to these humans what genuine power means. Target their biggest ship." The Domain flagship's primary cannon powered up, its violet energy beam lancing toward the human fleet. The Alliance forces watched in dread, anticipating the unknown human vessel's destruction. Instead, something extraordinary occurred. The beam struck an invisible wall around the human flagship Thunderchild and simply vanished. No detonation, no shield flare. The energy just ceased to exist. Captain Tom Walker stood composed on Thunderchild's bridge, a faint smile crossing his face. Energy absorption screens functioning at full capacity, he informed Admiral Stone. Their main weapon just recharged our power cells to maximum. Stone's voice returned over the command frequency. All vessels, implement Battle Strategy Alpha. Show them what Earth is capable of. The human fleet moved with remarkable precision. Their dark holes started glowing with blue energy patterns as weapon arrays activated. 2 centuries of readiness were about to prove worthwhile. Impossible. The domain commander shouted as his tactical display erupted with alerts. His sensors couldn't achieve targeting locks on the human ships. Their concealment systems made them appear in multiple locations simultaneously. The first shot from a human craft taught the Domain Empire a devastating lesson in superiority. A small human destroyer discharged what appeared to be a tiny green energy bolt. When it connected with a Domain heavy cruiser, the entire shield system collapsed instantly. A second shot carved the massive vessel in two. What manner of weapons are these? The Domain weapons officer screamed in panic. Nothing had ever breached their shields so effortlessly. The answer arrived in the form of additional green bolts. Each human ship engaged multiple Domain vessels. Their shots completely bypassed shields, disabled propulsion systems, and sliced through the strongest armor plating like tissue paper. On the Alliance flagship. Admiral Raya watched in astonishment. "Are you capturing this?" he asked his crew. Every moment of it, his sensor officer confirmed, all 4 hands working rapidly. "Sir, the human ships are employing technology we've never encountered. Their weapons, they're somehow dismantling matter at the quantum scale. And their defenses aren't merely stopping the Domain's attacks, they're converting the energy." The engagement rapidly transformed into a demonstration of Earth's military supremacy. Human ships moved in flawless formation, their computers anticipating and countering every Domain maneuver before execution. When Domain ships attempted to jump away, they discovered their engines wouldn't activate. "Engine suppression field operational," Captain Walker reported aboard the Thunderchild. "They're going nowhere." The Domain commander's bridge descended into pandemonium as more systems malfunctioned. Their powerful weapons were ineffective. Their supposedly impenetrable shields meant nothing, and their vast numerical superiority was meaningless against an opponent they couldn't even strike. "This is Admiral Stone to Domain forces." The transmission cut through their chaos. "Your engines have been neutralized. Your weapons are ineffective. You have 2 options, surrender now, or we'll be compelled to reveal our complete combat potential." The Domain commander gripped his chair, pride battling survival instinct. "We will never." A single shot from the Thunderchild silenced him. The bolt passed through his flagship's bridge, vaporizing a perfect cylinder straight through the enormous ship without detonating. A warning shot that could have easily obliterated the entire vessel. "Perhaps," the commander said slowly, "we should reconsider the human proposal." Admiral Stone permitted himself a brief smile. Humanity had revealed less than 10% of their true capabilities. And already, the mighty Domain fleet was prepared to capitulate. 200 years of observing, learning, and preparing had created an insurmountable technological advantage. The genuine question was how the galaxy would react upon learning just how powerful humanity had become. While the Domain fleet hung powerless in space, the Alliance Council convened in their emergency shelter, deep beneath the Centauri system's capital city. 12 representatives from different civilizations sat around a circular table, watching live transmissions of the human ships. "They could have annihilated us just as easily as they defeated the Domain," said the reptilian counselor, scales shifting colors with nervousness. "Why would such a powerful civilization aid us?" Their discussion paused as a new hologram materialized above the table. Admiral Stone's image stood before them, his uniform pristine and posture straight. Honorable Council, I request authorization to land and discuss terms of friendship between our peoples. The council members exchanged nervous glances. The head counselor, an elderly being with crystalline skin, spoke first. Permission granted, Admiral. We will receive you at the central spaceport. The human shuttle descended through the atmosphere gracefully, its dark hull reflecting the system's twin suns. Captain Walker stood beside Admiral Stone, observing the alien city expand through the viewport. Impressive architecture, Walker remarked, noting the spiral towers and floating platforms. Difficult to imagine the domain, nearly destroyed all this. Stone nodded. That's why we finally emerged from isolation. We couldn't watch another civilization collapse. He turned to the diplomatic team behind them. Remember, we display strength but not hostility. Earth seeks allies, not subjects. The shuttle landed gently on a vast platform where the Alliance Council waited. As the ramp descended, both groups got their first close look at each other. The Alliance members were surprised by how unremarkable the humans appeared. After witnessing their godlike technology, they had expected beings of pure energy or towering giants. Instead, they saw people who looked almost ordinary, dressed in simple dark uniforms with minimal decoration. Welcome to Centauri Prime. The crystal-skinned counselor said, raising all four hands in their traditional salutation. We are in your debt beyond measure. Stone smiled warmly. Earth extends its hand in partnership. We've observed your people for many years, admiring your peaceful cooperation and cultural exchanges. The domain's aggression could not be permitted to destroy that. Meanwhile, aboard the Thunderchild, the crew monitored the captured domain fleet. Walker's second-in-command, Lieutenant Smith, noticed something on her sensors. Sir, she called to Walker over the communication channel. 3 domain battleships just materialized at the system's edge. They're not responding to any transmissions. The new domain ships charged their weapons, clearly unaware of what had befallen their main fleet. Their commanders had probably expected to find a victory celebration, not their entire fleet held helpless by unknown vessels. Walker sighed. Transmit the standard warning. If they fire, disable their ships. Try not to damage them too extensively. They'll make adequate practice targets for the Alliance fleet once we upgrade their weapons. The warning went out, but the domain ships pressed forward. Their crews were about to learn the same harsh lesson as their comrades. Back on the planet's surface. Admiral Stone shared recordings of Earth's long journey to this moment. The Alliance Council watched in amazement as they saw humans rebuilding their civilization after ancient conflicts, reaching for the stars, and then choosing isolation to prepare for this very day. We knew the domain would eventually threaten peace in this region, Stone explained. So we watched, learned, and developed responses to every weapon and tactic they possessed. But we needed the proper moment to reveal ourselves. The Crystal Counselor's surface sparkled with emotion. But why assist us? You could have allowed our civilizations to fall and claimed the galaxy for yourselves. Stone's answer was straightforward, but profound. Because that's not our nature. Humanity learned long ago that true strength comes from elevating others, not suppressing them. We don't wish to rule the galaxy, we want to help safeguard it. As if to emphasize his words, a flash illuminated the sky as the Thunderchild effortlessly disabled the 3 domain battleships that had just arrived. The message was unmistakable. Humanity had arrived, and the rules had changed forever. 3 days after initial contact, Admiral Stone assembled his fleet commanders aboard the Thunderchild. The holographic display revealed hundreds of domain supply routes, stretching across the galaxy like crimson veins. The domain believes they only lost a single fleet, Stone explained, indicating key routes. They're unaware we can strike anywhere, anytime. Today, we show them the consequences of underestimating humanity. Captain Walker studied the supply routes. Their fuel convoys are most exposed here in the Orion sector. No major fleet presence, minimal defenses. Precisely, Stone expanded the chart. Domain ships require specialized fuel for their engines. Without it, their fleets are merely drifting metal. Walker, you'll command the first strike. Asterisk. The domain supply base in the Orion sector was enormous, a sprawling space. Stations surrounded by fuel tankers and cargo vessels. Its commander watched his tedious shift drag on, unaware that everything was about to change. A sensor operator glanced up from his console. Sir, detecting some unusual readings. Might be a sensor glitch. Space rippled. 30 human ships appeared, their dark hulls seeming to absorb starlight. The Thunderchild led the formation, its weapons already charged. Asterisk. Attention domain forces. Walker's voice echoed across all channels. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is not negotiable. The domain commander laughed. A mere 30 ships against our station. We have over 200 defense vessels. All ships, destroy these foolish humans. Walker sighed. They never learn. All ships execute pattern Delta. Target their weapons first, then engines. No unnecessary destruction. Asterisk. The human fleet separated into smaller groups, moving with impossible precision. Domain ships fired wildly, their shots either missing completely or being absorbed by the human vessel's energy fields. Sir, Walker's weapons officer called out. They're launching their new guided torpedoes. Perfect. Walker smiled. Deploy the control field. Asterisk. A wave of invisible energy pulsed from the human ships. Every domain torpedo halted mid-flight, then reversed direction and flew back to their launches. The resulting explosions disabled dozens of domain ships without the humans firing a single shot. The station commander watched in horror as his defense fleet disintegrated. Human vessels danced between his ships, their green energy beams slicing through shields and disabling weapons with surgical precision. Not a single shot was wasted. Every blast struck exactly where intended. How? He whispered as the Thunderchild approached his station. How are they doing this? The answer came as human marines teleported directly onto his bridge, their armor making them look like dark specters. The station's crew raised their hands immediately. Having heard stories about the battle 3 days earlier, asterisk, back in Alliance space, Admiral Raya watched the reports arriving with amazement. The humans had just captured the largest domain supply base without losing a single ship or crew member. Even more impressive, they had disabled the entire defense fleet without destroying a single vessel. Their precision is unbelievable, his tactical officer said. Look at these scans. They disabled 200 ships, and there's barely any structural damage. Every shot hit exactly where they aimed. Asterisk. Raya nodded. And this was just 30 ships. Imagine what their entire fleet could accomplish. A new report flashed on his screen. Similar strikes were occurring across domain space. Supply lines were being severed, communication bases captured, and defensive fleets disabled. The domain's mighty empire was being systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't even fight back against. Captain Walker stood on the captured station's bridge, reviewing the mission data. All objectives completed. Minimal damage to infrastructure, 0 casualties on either side, and the entire fuel depot secured. He opened a channel to Admiral Stone. Sir, first strike successful. The domain's about to learn that their aggressive expansion has finally hit a wall, a human wall. Stone's reply was simple, but carried the weight of humanity's new role in the galaxy. Well done, Captain. Now, let's show them what happens when they threaten peace in our part of space. Asterisk. The message was spreading across the stars. Humanity had arrived, and the domain's days of unchallenged power were over. Asterisk. The domain's Supreme War Council gathered in their hidden fortress deep within their home system. Holograms displayed the devastating losses of the past week. 50 major supply bases captured, 300 defense fleets disabled, and all without a single ship destroyed. How are they predicting our every move? The High General slammed his fist on the table. It's like they've been studying us for centuries. A quiet voice finished. All eyes turned to their chief scientist. Reports indicate they isolated themselves 200 years ago. They weren't hiding, they were preparing. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts but fell silent as their emperor's hologram appeared. Enough. Deploy the reserve fleet, all of it. I want these humans eliminated, whatever the cost. Aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Walker watched as 15,000 domain warships emerged from hyperspace. The massive fleet formed a wall of metal across space, thousands of kilometers wide. They've committed their entire reserve fleet, his tactical officer reported. This is everything they have left. Walker opened a channel to Admiral Stone. Sir, looks like they're finally taking us seriously. Indeed, Stone's voice was calm. Time to show them why that's a mistake. Execute Operation Checkmate. Walker smiled. All ships, battle formation, echo. Let's show them what we learned from their training exercises. The domain fleet charged forward, weapons blazing. This time, they had studied the human ship's movements and adjusted their targeting. Their admiral smiled as the first volley approached the human fleet and passed right through them. Holograms. The domain admiral screamed, "Find the real ships." The real human fleet appeared behind the domain formation. Having used their advanced stealth systems to slip through the gaps, before the domain could react, waves of energy pulses swept through their ranks, shutting down engines and weapons. But the domain had one last trick. Their ships suddenly split apart, each vessel breaking into 3 smaller ones. Behold, our greatest secret. Their admiral broadcast, "Our ships were designed to subdivide. You may disable some, but you'll never stop them all." Walker watched calmly as the domain fleet tripled in size. "Interesting design," he commented. "Too bad we already knew about it." He turned to his crew. Deploy the gravity nets, invisible fields of artificial gravity, activated between the human ships, creating a web that caught the domain vessels like fish in a net. The smaller ships, lacking the stabilizers of their combined forms, were even more vulnerable to human technology. In Alliance space, Admiral Rhea led a fleet of newly upgraded Alliance ships. The humans had shared some of their basic technology, enough to give their allies a fighting chance. Domain reinforcements detected, his sensor officer reported. They're trying to flank the human fleet. Rhea straightened in his chair. Not this time. All ships, attack pattern, human 7. Show them what we've learned from our new friends. The Alliance ships moved with new confidence, their upgraded weapons slicing through domain shields. It wasn't as elegant as the human attacks, but it was effective. The battle reached its climax as the domain fleet realized they were trapped between human technology and newly empowered Alliance forces. Their smaller ships tried to escape, only to find every route blocked by gravity fields or precision fire. Domain fleet, Walker broadcast. Your subdividing ships are impressive, but we've had 2 centuries to think of counters to every possible tactic. Surrender, now. The domain admiral watched his mighty fleet hanging helpless in space. Every strategy had failed. Every secret weapon had been countered before it could be used. The humans hadn't just beaten them, they had outhorsed them at every turn. We, ... double quotes, he swallowed his pride. We surrender. As Alliance ships moved in to secure the captured vessels, Walker sent a private message to Admiral Stone. "Sir, I think it's time for the final push. The domain's running out of cards to play." Stone's response was brief but determined. "Agreed. Prepare for the endgame." The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how humanity would end this war they'd spent centuries preparing to fight. The domain emperor's personal fortress world floated in space, surrounded by the last remnants of their once mighty military. 3,000 ships formed a defensive sphere around the massive artificial planet, their crews nervous but determined. Inside the fortress, the Emperor watched tactical displays with growing fear. "They're coming, aren't they?" His advisor nodded silently. Long-range sensors had detected the combined human alliance fleet approaching, but this time something was different. The human ships weren't trying to hide. Admiral Stone stood on the Thunderchild's bridge beside Captain Walker. The command deck was silent except for the soft hum of equipment. On the main screen, the domain fortress grew larger. They've got nowhere left to run, Walker observed. Every supply line cut, every outpost captured, every fleet disabled. Stone nodded. And now they'll see what happens when we stop being nice. All ships, battle stations. Load the real weapons. Throughout the human fleet, hidden weapon ports opened for the first time. Devices that had remained dormant for centuries hummed to life. The domain was about to learn that everything they'd seen so far had been humanity fighting with one hand tied behind its back. Asterisk. The domain admiral watched in confusion as the human fleet approached without any attempt at stealth or deception. They're being careless. All ships, prepared to his words, died as his sensors screamed warnings. The energy readings from the human ships had just increased 100-fold. By the stars, his sensor officer shouted. Those weapons they've been using, they were just their training weapons. Asterisk, all ships. Execute final protocol. Stone's voice was calm but carried absolute authority. Show them what Earth can really do. The human fleet moved as one. Ships that had seemed dark now blazed with power, their hulls glowing with contained energy. When they fired, there were no small green beams this time. Massive waves of golden energy swept out, passing through the domain shields like they didn't exist. Ships caught in the beams simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, but erased at the quantum level. Asterisk, impossible. The domain emperor watched as 1,000 ships vanished in seconds. How long have they had this capability? The whole time, his advisor whispered, everything before this was them being merciful. The Alliance fleet, led by Admiral Raya, struck from the opposite side. Their ships, now equipped with basic versions of human technology, tore through the remaining domain defenses. Look at those human weapons, Raya said in awe. They could have ended this war in minutes on the first day. His second-in-command nodded. They held back because they wanted to give the domain a chance to surrender without being obliterated. They were being kind. Asterisk Walker directed the Thunderchild through the chaos, leading the strike team toward the Fortress World's main docking bay. Admiral, we're in position for the final strike. Proceed, Captain, Stone replied. End this. The Thunderchild's new weapons carved a clean path through the fortress's outer defenses. Domain guns fired desperately but couldn't even scratch the human ship's true shields. Asterisk. This is Captain Walker to all domain forces within the fortress. His voice echoed through every speaker and communication device. Your fleet is gone. Your defenses are useless. Surrender now, or we'll be forced to demonstrate our planet cracker weapons. Asterisk. Inside the fortress, the Emperor looked at his tactical display. 2/3 of his remaining fleet had vanished in minutes. The humans had weapons that could erase matter from existence. And based on their energy readings, they weren't even using full power. Open a channel, he ordered, his voice shaking. Tell them we surrender, unconditionally. As Walker's strike team boarded the fortress, he sent a final message to Stone. Mission accomplished, Admiral. The war is over. Stone looked out at the battlefield, where the mighty domain fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors in minutes. No, Captain. The peace is just beginning. Asterisk. 1 month after the domain surrender, representatives from every spacefaring species gathered on Earth. For the first time in history, aliens walked through the streets of New Washington, marveling at the perfect blend of nature and technology that humans had achieved. The domain emperor, now stripped of his powers, stood before the United Earth Council. His once magnificent robes had been replaced by simple diplomatic attire. Asterisk. Admiral Stone and Captain Walker watched from their seats as he signed the final peace treaty. We formally acknowledge our crimes against the galaxy. The former emperor spoke, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. And we accept Earth's terms for reconstruction and disarmament. The head of the Earth Council nodded. Your people will not be punished for their leaders' mistakes. Humanity will help rebuild the domain worlds into something better. Asterisk. Aboard the Thunderchild, Walker showed Admiral Raya around the ship's true capabilities. The Alliance commander stared in wonder at technology centuries ahead of anything he'd imagined. Those weapons we gave the Alliance, Walker explained, they were just the beginning. We'll help all peaceful species advance, but gradually, making sure the power is used wisely. Raya touched a wall panel, watching it respond to his thoughts. You could have conquered us all. Why help us instead? Walker smiled. Because Earth learned long ago that real strength isn't about conquest. It's about protection. About lifting others up. In the domain's former fortress world, now converted into a galactic peace center. Admiral Stone met with the Alliance Council. Holograms showed ships from all species working together to rebuild damaged worlds. The quarantine zones around dangerous weapons research have been established, Stone reported, and our terraforming fleets have started repairing planets damaged in the war. The crystal-skinned counselor sparkled with emotion. Humanity continues to amaze us. You win a war, then spend your resources helping everyone, even your former enemies. It's what we do, Stone replied simply. Earth spent centuries preparing not just to win a war, but to build a lasting peace. Back on Earth. In a quiet garden outside the council chambers, the domain's former chief scientist met with human researchers. They showed him plans for clean energy, advanced medicine, and sustainable terraforming. All this time, he said, examining the designs, we thought we were the most advanced species. But you were so far ahead that you could afford to be kind. A human scientist patted his shoulder. We had good teachers. Our own history showed us that advancement without wisdom leads to destruction. That's why we waited, watched, and prepared to do things right. 6 months later, Captain Walker stood on the Thunderchild's observation deck, watching ships from a dozen species training together in Earth's new defensive fleet. The domain's former warships, now repurposed for peaceful missions, worked alongside Alliance and human vessels. Status report. Admiral Stone's hologram appeared beside him. Walker smiled. The Galactic Defense Network is online. Former domain worlds are recovering well. The Alliance species have adapted to their new technology responsibly. And, he paused. There hasn't been a single act of war in known space for 6 months. A new record. Stone nodded approvingly. Earth's long wait paid off, not just in victory, but in building something better. Speaking of building, Walker turned to his old friend. The Council approved our expansion plans. We start constructing the first intergalactic exploration fleet next month. Excellent. Stone's hologram looked out at the stars. After all, there's a whole universe out there, and this time, we'll explore it together, as a united galaxy. Walker watched a group of young officers, human, Alliance, and former domain, training together on a nearby vessel. You know what the best part is, sir? What's that, Captain? We didn't just end a war. We started a new age of peace. And this time, it'll last. As the sun set on Earth, ships from across the galaxy flew in formation. Their crews, no longer divided by species or past conflicts. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not just as warriors, but as teachers, protectors, and guides toward a better future. The game wasn't just over, a new one had begun. The artificial planet loomed in space, its surface bristling with weapons. Around it, nervous crews manned 3,000 warships in a desperate defensive shell. Deep within the fortress, the Emperor stared at flickering tactical screens, his hands trembling. They're approaching, aren't they? He asked quietly. His advisor could only nod. Distant sensors had picked up the approaching human Alliance armada. But something felt different this time. The human vessels made no effort to conceal themselves. On the Thunderchild's command bridge, Admiral Stone stood shoulder to shoulder with Captain Walker. The deck hummed with quiet energy, the only sound breaking the tense silence. The main view screen showed the fortress growing steadily larger. They have no escape routes remaining, Walker remarked. Every supply channel severed, every base seized, every battle group neutralized. Stone gave a firm nod. Now they'll witness what happens when we stop holding back. All vessels, combat readiness. Activate the true arsenal. Across the human armada, concealed weapon bays slid open for the first time. Systems that had lain dormant for 200 years thrummed with awakening power. The domain was moments away from understanding that everything witnessed until now had been humanity, operating at a fraction of its capability. The domain admiral stared at his displays in bewilderment as the human ships advanced openly, making no tactical maneuvers. They're exposing themselves foolishly. All vessels, ready to his command, caught in his throat as alarms shrieked across every console. Energy signatures from the approaching fleet had suddenly multiplied 100 times over. Impossible. His sensor technician cried out. Those armaments they've deployed, they were merely practice weapons. All vessels initiate final defensive measures. Stone's voice rang out with quiet certainty. Reveal Earth's full might. The human armada moved in perfect synchronization. Ships that had appeared dark now erupted with brilliant power, their frames radiating contained force. When they opened fire, the small green pulses were gone. Instead, enormous torrents of golden energy rolled forward, phasing through domain barriers as if they were nothing. Vessels touched by these waves didn't explode, they simply ceased to be, erased from reality itself at the subatomic level. This cannot be. The domain emperor watched helplessly as 1,000 warships blinked out of existence within moments. How long have they possessed such power? Since the beginning, his advisor breathed. Everything prior to this moment was restraint. They were showing mercy. From the far side, the Alliance Armada, under Admiral Rhea, launched their coordinated assault. Their ships, now outfitted with elementary human systems, carved through what remained of domain defenses. Observe those human armaments, Rhea whispered in wonder. They possessed the capability to conclude this conflict within moments from the very start. His executive officer agreed solemnly. They deliberately restrained themselves, offering the domain an opportunity to yield without total annihilation. It was an act of compassion. Walker guided the Thunderchild through the maelstrom, spearheading the assault team toward the fortress planet's primary landing bay. Admiral, strike team, positioned for final approach. You're cleared to proceed, Captain. Stone responded. Finish this. The Thunderchild's awakened weapons system carved an effortless corridor through the fortress's exterior defenses. Domain artillery fired in desperation, but the shots dissipated harmlessly against the human ship's actual protective barriers. This is Captain Walker, addressing all domain personnel within the fortress. His words echoed through every communication system and speaker array. Your fleet no longer exists. Your fortifications are meaningless. Yield immediately, or we'll have no choice but to deploy our world-shattering capabilities. Within the fortress command center, the Emperor gazed at his tactical readout. 2/3 of his final forces had evaporated within minutes. The humans wielded technology capable of unmaking matter itself, and their power readings indicated they were still operating far below maximum capacity. Establish a communication link, he commanded, his voice breaking. Inform them we accept total and unconditional surrender. As Walker's boarding team secured the fortress, he transmitted one last update to Stone. Objective achieved. Admiral, hostilities have concluded. Stone surveyed the battlefield, where the once fearsome domain armada had been reduced to drifting wreckage in mere minutes. Not quite, Captain. Now the true work begins. Building the peace. For weeks, following the domain capitulation, delegates from every star-traveling civilization assembled on Earth. For the first time in recorded history, alien beings strolled through New Washington's boulevards, awestruck by humanity's seamless integration of wilderness and advanced infrastructure. The former domain emperor, stripped of authority and regalia, stood before the United Earth Assembly. His elaborate ceremonial garments had been exchanged for plain diplomatic dress. Admiral Stone and Captain Walker observed from the gallery as he inscribed his name on the final accord. We openly admit our transgressions against the galactic community. The deposed emperor declared his words resonating through the hushed hall, and we embrace Earth's conditions for rebuilding and military limitation. The Earth Assembly's presiding officer inclined her head. Your citizens will not face retribution for their ruler's actions. Humanity commits to assisting the restoration of domain territories into something worthwhile. Aboard the Thunderchild, Walker escorted Admiral Raya through areas showcasing the vessel's genuine capabilities. The Alliance commander gazed in astonishment at innovations centuries beyond his civilization's achievements. Those systems we provided your Alliance, Walker clarified, represented only initial steps. We'll assist all peace-oriented civilizations in their advancement, though carefully and progressively. Ensuring such power serves wisdom. Raya placed his hand against an interactive panel, watching it illuminate in response to his neural patterns. You possessed the strength to subjugate every civilization. What motivated you to offer aid instead? Walker's expression softened, because Earth discovered generations ago that genuine power isn't measured by domination, it's defined by safeguarding others. By elevating those around you. At the domain's previous fortress planet, now transformed into the Galactic Harmony Complex. Admiral Stone convened with the Alliance governing body. Holographic displays revealed vessels from numerous species collaborating on planetary restoration projects. Restricted zones surrounding hazardous military research have been designated, Stone briefed. Additionally, our environmental reconstruction flotillas have initiated repair operations on war-damaged worlds. The crystalline counselor's surface shimmered with feeling. Humanity perpetually astounds us. You achieve military victory, then dedicate your assets to assisting everyone, including former adversaries. It defines who we are, Stone answered plainly. Earth invested centuries, preparing not merely for conflict resolution, but for establishing enduring harmony. On Earth. Within tranquil gardens adjacent to the assembly buildings. The domain's previous head scientists conferred with human research teams. They presented blueprints for sustainable energy systems, revolutionary medical treatments, and ecological restoration methods. Throughout this entire period, he murmured, studying the technical schematics. We believed ourselves the galaxy's most sophisticated civilization. Yet you had advanced so extraordinarily far that you possessed the luxury of kindness. A human researcher squeezed his shoulder reassuringly. We learned from excellent instructors. Our species' own turbulent past demonstrated that progress without ethical guidance culminates in catastrophe. That's precisely why we chose patience, observation, and meticulous preparation for a better approach. Half a year later, Captain Walker stood at the Thunderchild's viewing platform, observing vessels from 12 different species, conducting joint training exercises for Earth's newly established defensive coalition. Former domain battleships, retrofitted for constructive purposes, operated harmoniously alongside Alliance and human craft. Current situation assessment. Admiral Stone's projected image materialized beside him. Walker's face showed satisfaction. The galaxy-wide defense grid is operational. Previously occupied domain territories are experiencing successful recovery. Alliance member species have demonstrated responsible adaptation to enhanced technologies, and ... He paused meaningfully. Documented hostile actions throughout charted space have remained at 0 for 6 consecutive months. An unprecedented achievement. Stone acknowledged with approval. Earth's prolonged preparation proved worthwhile, not simply through martial triumph, but through constructing something substantially improved. Regarding construction initiatives, Walker faced his longtime colleague. The governing body has sanctioned our expansion proposal. Construction commences next month on the inaugural intergalactic survey fleet. Outstanding. Stone's hologram gazed toward distant stars. Considering the circumstances, an entire universe awaits exploration. This time, however, we'll venture forth collectively, as one unified galactic community. Walker observed a cluster of junior officers representing human, Alliance, and former domain personnel training side by side on a neighboring vessel. You know what aspect pleases me most, sir? What would that be, Captain? We accomplished more than conflict termination. We inaugurated an entirely new era of cooperation, and this time, it will endure. As Earth's sun descended below the horizon, Spacecraft from throughout the galaxy maintained formation flight. Their crews no longer segregated by biological origin or historical grievances. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic platform not solely as combatants, but as educators, defenders, and shepherds, guiding everyone toward an improved tomorrow. The previous chapter wasn't merely concluded, an entirely new story had commenced.